What if, when Jesus said, "I am the way," he was talking about the very same reality that the Tao Te Ching calls the way? John's Gospel begins with a profound statement. It says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." The Greek word here for word is logos, and in ancient Greek times, the logos is the underlying principle of order in the universe, the rational structure of the cosmos. The Tao Te Ching, written centuries earlier, begins in a strikingly similar way. It says, "In the beginning was the Tao." And then in verse 25, it says, "There was something formless and perfect before the universe was born. It is serene, empty, solitary, unchanging, infinite, eternally present. It is the mother of the universe. It flows through all things, inside and outside, and returns to the origin of all things." Already we see resonances here. Both the Logos and the Tao both talking about what was in the beginning, and both of them pointing to a source that the flow of life comes from. And John's Gospel doesn't stop at "in the beginning was the Logos." It goes on to say, "The Word became flesh and dwelt among us." For John, this Logos, the underlying principle of order in the universe, was revealed in the person of Jesus. But if the Logos is the underlying principle that flows through all things, then Jesus cannot be its only embodiment. He is simply the revelation, the window, or the mirror shining back at us, showing us the truth that was there all along. It's the same Logos that animates all of us. As Paul wrote, "Do you not know that you are God's temple and the Spirit of God dwells in you?" The Logos in flesh is not limited to one man in history. It is the very life that flows through you and through me right now. Now here is where it gets really interesting. The Tao is literally translated as the way of life, the path that life flows through, like a river flowing naturally without resistance. And what did Jesus say? He said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." To call himself the way is a cosmic claim. He's pointing to the same principle that Taoism points to, the divine flow of reality itself. Greek thinkers like Heraclitus also spoke of the Logos. He said, "Listening to the Logos rather than to me, it is wise to agree that all things are one." The Stoics were teaching that the Logos was the active reasoning, and also the divine fire that animated the universe, and a spark of that fire lives in you and me. Philo of Alexandria, a philosopher around the time of Jesus, described it as the bond of everything, holding all things together. And the Tao Te Ching describes the Tao as ungraspable, undefinable, yet ever-present. It nourishes without demanding, it governs without ruling. It is described as water, soft, yielding, yet unstoppable. And that's a big part of what Taoism is about, going with the flow and accepting the way things are. There is one part where Jesus reflects this, I think. It's when Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane before he is going to be killed on the cross, and he knew this was coming, and he prayed to God and said, "Is this the only way? Can it be done any other way?" But he said, "Regardless, your will be done." So even though he knew this horrific torture was about to be inflicted upon him, he still accepted God's will. And God's will could be seen as the flow of the Tao. This is Taoist surrender, aligning with the way, letting go of resistance, and going with the flow of reality. Some warn against linking the Tao and the Logos. Alan Watts even warned against it in one of his talks, and when he said that a Chinese translation of the Bible actually translated the word Logos for Tao. The problem here is that Taoists don't see the Tao as a kingly god, a god that commands or sets rules. But maybe the reason this problem arises is because we are trying to put words to something that we cannot put words to. Whether we call it a river that flows, or we personify it and say that it creates the world, maybe this is all just trying to add symbolism and words to something that is beyond our ability to even understand, as both the Bible and the Tao Te Ching both tell us that we'll never fully understand the truth of reality. We can call it the Logos, the Word, the Tao, the Way, but whatever we call it, it's pointing to something deeper, beyond the separation, to a deeper unity. When Jesus says, "I am the way," and Taoists point to the Tao as being the way, perhaps they're both pointing to the same underlying truth, the same living presence within all of us. A presence that we can't capture in words, but something we can only experience. So, is Jesus the Tao? Maybe the better question is, can we live as if the way flows through us and in us and as us? Because no matter what we call it, the invitation is the same: to trust the flow of reality, to surrender, and to live in oneness with all things.